Salam everyone. Welcome to the Circle of Resilience, your number one space for healing through listening to stories of so many people coming from diverse backgrounds who are open to share their stories and open their hearts and share the wisdoms of their life with us. And today's guest is someone very special, and she's coming from diverse backgrounds with so many experiences and stories and life events. And she's here today to open her heart and share her story and her journey with us. And we're looking forward to talking to her and just inviting you to join me to welcome Ines.
Hi everyone.
Hi Ines. But we finally did it, right?
We did. It's good to be here with everyone.
Yeah, it's good to have you. And just before we start, I love to check in with people. I know you know that, right? Even on the events we used to do together. Check in, check out.
Yes, yeah.
So just checking in with you. How do you feel and how's your day so far?
Yeah, I'm feeling really grateful. Yeah. Grateful. I'm feeling, it was a really great weekend. It was a really great day. The sun's shining. And I think just excited to be in this moment with everyone, and also doing something so powerful. So,
yeah, I'm glad that this is how you feel, and I'm so excited because I think you are the first person I spoke to about this podcast. And we have been, I know, right? When you are my boss.
I
know. Yeah, so and that time, I know you don't like to be called a boss. I don't like that too, but always I wanted to do, when I do that, I wanted just, to have some fun.
Yes.
But yeah, when we were working together, we spoke about this, like when we have some time that's out of work.
Yeah.
Sometimes we bring it anytime, but I remember that you were the first person I spoke to. And I remember how excited you were, and you have been excited throughout the whole journey.
Yeah.
And I was looking forward actually to have you as the first, to interview you, the first person, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
You have been busy, you were transitioning, and you had a lot going on in your life. So I'm still very grateful that you're here, and I'm so excited that we made it happen, and
we make it happen. Yes,
talking.
Yes,
about resilience in the CR talk, and yeah, I'm just looking forward a very deep conversation and meaningful messages and wisdoms that we always have.
Thanks, that's fun.
Yeah. So, and before we dive deep, I usually like to talk about what's happening in Sudan. And I just like to open the conversation with that because it's something in my heart, and no matter what situation I am at, I always feel and think about what's happening in my country. And it has been happening for over a year now, and people are, being displaced. They're suffering of famine and hunger, and they don't have any place to stay. Even if they found a place, it's not secure if it's inside or outside of the country. And I'm sure because of your job now, you know a lot about what's happening in the world. And Sudan has been one of the countries that has a lot of things that's going on. And this war has, I wouldn't say it came from nowhere, because there are so many historical, political, cultural reasons behind that. There is a history of discrimination, a history of racism, and a history of course, of corruption that has been happening for over 30 years. And there is a division based on race, based on where are you from. So all those things work together to to make things happen and get escalated and reach the level that we're at now.
Yes.
And the political reasons are so many. And since this is not our space is not for politics, or we're not here to speak about politics, but reasons are vary, and there is so much politics in this, but also there is so much humanity. And there are so many people who their lives have been affected, and we're here to talk about those people, and I'm here to share that with you, and just opening the floor for you if you want to share any thoughts, any prayers, good wishes, showing solidarity.
Absolutely, and I would love to share some resources too, because Actually, I'm gonna take my notes in a minute. But I think at the end of the day, this piece about like really honoring the humanity of what's happening is so important. Because at the end of the day, like to go without your basic needs is a very violent act. And so many, it's like what, 25.7 million people now or something like this is like are displaced internally and externally. And it's just, we live in a world that's very abundant. There's no need, you know? And so to be in a situation where food, water, safety, so many things are being withheld because of this moment of war and conflict is just, it's just inhumane, and you can't call it anything else, you know? So I think for me, what felt really important is, you know, to speak to folks who are outside of Sudan, and especially folks of privilege in America and in many other places of privilege, and ask them to really stand in solidarity with Sudan. So I'm going to read out a couple of resources and places to give. Yeah, absolutely. And I think in this time where sometimes people are like learning the history, learning the culture, and everyone asks so many questions.
Yes. I know.
And I'm like, you know, there's space for that.
Yes.
But I also want to acknowledge that when you stand in solidarity, the first thing that you need to honor is people's humanity.
Exactly.
You know? And so in honoring humanity, I have a list of places that give directly to women on the ground, you know, and women who are really leading the fights. And there's a beautiful organization called Prospera. And I'll send you the notes as well.
Okay.
And what they do is they partner directly on the ground with women organizers, mothers, daughters, all of these women.
Yeah.
And they give them aid directly and money directly. And so I'm going to read out the organizations they partner with and their statement. I think it's really powerful.
Do they have existence in Sudan? Or?
They're international.
Okay.
Yeah, international. So Prospera is an international network of women's funds. And the statement they released is this. Over the last 4 months, Sudan has been thrown into crisis. The rise of violence against the civilian population across the country keeps worsening. To date, over 2.5 million people, including women, girls, and minority groups, have been displaced. Over the years, women's funds have supported these movements in responding to the urgent needs of human rights violations. And we ask that the international community, governments, philanthropy, and individuals, right? Because we can't ask institutions to do something on our behalf that we won't also do, right? So we also have to give of our money, of our resources, of our time. Again, our talking. There's so many things we can give. There's so many things we can give.
Yeah.
But if you have the money, please consider donating to the African Women's Development Fund, the Doria Feminist Fund, and Urgent Action Fund Africa. They're all working with folks on the ground.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I'll get those information and try also to share them with people on the ground, because at the end of the day, I'm not there. But as I told you, just my heart and my mind, I'm thinking about it day and night, and I'm thinking of ways to help without being, you know, dragged into politics, because I have my own, you know, perspective about that. And but at the same time, you need to be considering helping people for people and being part of providing any kind of support in the human level. So I try to connect with people on the ground and see who can make use of these resources in a good way. Okay, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that. So let's dive and shift the gears a little bit.
Let's do it.
Yeah, shifting them towards you.
Let's go.
Yeah. I know you're the first generation American from immigrant parents, and this is a big dilemma, right? A lot of people who are were raised in this country and they are not originally from here. They have their own unique life that's full of. I know it's full of so many good things. You are unique. You're different from other people, but also it's challenging and it's not easy to be living in 2 or 3 different worlds inside your mind, because at home you have to be that child of those immigrant parents who came immigrated with all their cultures and their history and their social values, and that's a beautiful thing. And they want you, of course, to keep that and to learn it and to observe it, right? But at the same time, you grow up in the US, and a lot of ideas about your original country, you just have them in your mind or from the stories you hear from your elder people, right? You didn't get to live that life, but you had to live it inside your mind, inside your heart, and physically being here and also learning the American culture, growing up with American kids. That's a big thing, and it is. I know it's challenging. It's not easy. So we just want to hear that story from your side and understand how did you grow up absorbing all that and being considerate of both cultures. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's like a lifelong journey. But definitely, I think where I always like to start is, I'm the first generation in this country. There's so much there. There's so much there, but also the way that I like to think about it is, I'm in the third generation healing. And so I guess in that way, there's kind of like two places to start. Like the first place to start is like with my grandfather's story, my grandmother's story. So I was born in New York, but I come from Dominican Republic, which is an island that also experienced a lot of like race and class and discrimination. And because of that, historically, both of my grandparents were orphaned.
Yeah.
And so my grandfather, my father's father, fled and came to New York. It took him about 2 times to be able to get out, right? Yeah. The first time was a little tough. He got sent back and had to endure a lot of hardship. And then the second time, he was successful and started a life in New York.
Okay.
And then my father's mother, she started a school. And so a lot of my passion, I think, comes from her and from my mom, and so anyways, let's fast forward one generation, right? Yeah. Because that to me is the generation that gave opportunity and stability, of course, And then I think my parents' generation, they gave values and like a pathway, It's here making me cry. So I have a lot of love and respect for my parents' generation because, my dad, because my grandfather immigrated in the way that he did, was able to learn English and have both languages, right? Spanish and English. And so when it was time to actually immigrate here, he had someone who could petition for him.
Exactly.
And then that allowed my mother, who then married my father, to become naturalized.
Yeah.
So this is the 80s in New York, and there's a lot going on. I wasn't born yet. I wasn't here. But it's the 80s in New York, and I think so many of my values around family, around being resourceful, about being creative, about, taking initiative, come from them. Yes. And it's just what I saw. It's what I lived. It's what I take pride in. Yeah. I tell the story of my dad. So when he came up in New York, he started as a doorman. And so many things happen to immigrants, which is why I'm very passionate about immigrants. Yes. It's just absolutely too many things. And so he started as a doorman, but where he was working, they were violating neighbor laws, right? And so he basically made an agreement with the guy who owned the building. He goes, "Well, if I give you the first couple of checks, will you let me stay?" He said, "Okay. How did you stay?" Right? So you're working for free, right? Yes, that's true. Yeah, and that's and so then he's working for free, and then he goes, "Okay, well now you got to pay me," and then he's okay. Well, now I got to pay you because he proved his honesty, he proved his loyalty, things that aren't necessarily legal, and also complicated. And then it was, okay, well, if you allow me to study, right, then I'll do this. Yeah. And then it just became this ongoing relationship built off of sort of like my dad showing his initiative, right?
And honesty.
And his honesty, his honesty, and his willingness to really show up and work and do the job. And then he would come home, and then he would study some more. So he used to break apart our AC units.
Wow.
It's very determined. My dad is a very determined man. And so he would come home, and he would break apart the AC units, and he would build them back so that he can learn how the parts work.
Amazing.
Yeah, truly powerful. Really powerful.
And then, I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite stories, you know?
Yeah.
And then my mom, to me, she was like the community builder.
Yeah.
You know? So she was just on the phone.
With everyone back home. Yes.
She was on the phone with everyone back home, keeping everyone together, you know? Yeah. I feel like she was a therapist, you know?
Like that, I think.
Right? She is.
Yeah.
She is. It's really beautiful. She brings so much energy, so much light, so much humor. You know?
She is.
Yeah. You met her, you know. And she just has a get it done attitude, you know? So I just feel like that was such a basis of my like early upbringing was those hobbies. You know, I was like, you gotta figure it out. How are we gonna figure it out? We're gonna figure it out.
We don't have other option. We gotta figure it out.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. We have to.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, and it's very like heart touching, and I'm just so fascinated with, especially the story of your dad. The work that he used to do just for him to figure out how things work with the AC. That's amazing, and I'm sure like from both of them you have taken a lot of, your determination, but from your mom also your love for helping other people, and I think your willingness to bring people together.
Yeah.
Yes. I feel that when we work together, you're always so much like intentional about making the team work together, come together, keeping that team spirit. I think you took it from her.
It is.
And that's beautiful.
My mom is a big believer in it's together. The only way forward is together.
Absolutely. Yeah. So how was the school?
So I think so when we were in New York, so one of the biggest moments of change was when we moved from New York to Atlanta. From the north of the U.S. to the south of the U.S.
Yeah.
That's where school got hard because when we were in New York, there were so many immigrants from our cultural background. So, at home, I would speak to my dad in English to practice, and then everywhere else I could kind of speak in Spanish or English or kind of use both, It was really nice. Yeah.
So you had that community even outside?
I had the community outside.
Okay.
But then when we left New York, I was about 8 years old, and we moved to the American South. That's when everyone culturally was different. And I think that's when things started to get really hard for our family.
Yes.
Because everything was white or black, but it was white or black and American, So there wasn't really an understanding of culture that wasn't American culture. And I think for me, the struggle began because around 8 is also when, Dominican culture, there are a lot of sort of like cultural norms around how boys and girls are treated. And so my dad started to instill kind of those differences. But I'm the only girl in like my whole family,
Yeah.
So I was like, why are you picking on me?
Okay, so you're saying like you were complaining about your dad picking on you?
My dad picking on me, yeah. And I think that's when I started. Okay, so I just felt like my dad was picking on me because I have 2 older brothers and they're about 4 years older. So I'm in a stage where we moved from the American North to the American South, and we have all of our cultural community, and now we have none of it.
Yeah.
And now I don't have an opportunity to really make friends.
Exactly.
But I also think it's when I started to realize how different my parents' world was and how different my world was.
Yes.
Because I think at that time it was probably like 12 or 13. And it just was, how do I explain? It was just so different, And it's not just culturally different, but I also think the things that we're sensitive about and sensitive towards are also really different. And that's why I say like third generation healing, right?
Yeah.
Because it's important. And so when we lived in Georgia, we lived in Kennesaw. And you know, I remember my dad having a really hard time with his jobs and a hard time just in the workforce, but then also coming home and experiencing like what I would call like triggers, like PTSD. And which is kind of a big thing, and now I have the language for it, but when I was little, I just knew that my dad had had big reactions to things. And then I would go to, so, you know, I would try to understand my dad's big reactions. And then I would go to school and try to act American. And it's like, what is American? I don't know what American is. So, you know, you try to listen to the music and you try to watch the shows and you try to kind of speak the cultural language, right? And it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, you know? And so I remember at that time, my closest friends was another immigrant who was from Puerto Rico. Another immigrant who was from first generation from Haiti. And then another one who was Mexican American. And that was like my little group, you know? And I think I really needed that at that time because it was the only place where like everyone didn't fit, you know, and so we kind of fit together. Exactly. And then also that was, I think, the beginning of my journey in supporting my mother. Because in New York, she didn't need to have the English language. But in Georgia, she did. She didn't have it. And also in New York, she had all of her community, right? All of her friends. And in Georgia, she just had us. She just had me. So a lot changed in my family and our family dynamic.
For everyone.
For everyone. And I think that was the beginning of like noticing how many worlds and how many things that we needed to sort of like heal from and how much support we needed, right? Like, I think that was the beginning of me noticing like the differences.
And it's just very interesting for me that at that age of 13 or 12, you were able to you know, to realize what's happening with you, what's happening with your mom, and trying to find your own small community, you know, and just have, you know, circle of support, and then trying to help your mom get her language and learn English. I think it's something that not everyone thinks about it at that age of 13 or 12, right? So that requires a lot of self-awareness and just being observant and aware about what's going on in the world. So what was the most challenging thing that you had to deal with when you were at that time moving and changing places, changing cultures, and having to deal with all of that? What was the most challenging thing for you?
That's a good question. I think the most difficult thing was like finding my voice, you know, because I am a helper, right? And I want to make my parents proud, and I want to hang out with my brothers, you know, like I'm also the youngest, so I'm looking up to everyone, and I think the hardest thing was, and it's still part of my journey now, but back then it was, okay, well, where do I fit in, and how do I feel about things? What are my opinions? So kind of to your point, like I think that's what led to so much self-reflection and self-awareness. Was because I knew I didn't fit in anywhere, but it also felt like everyone else already had their world. And I was like creating mine. And so I think that's when I started journaling. And that's when I really started to try to say, you know, well, how do I feel about this? Well, I know my dad feels this way, and my brother feels that way, and my auntie in New York feels this way, but like, how do I feel? You know?
I believe in the power of journaling and writing overall. I know it's one of the strongest healing tools. For me, at least, it worked. very well. And whenever I'm just not feeling like talking to anyone about what I feel, sometimes, especially early when you're younger, you don't feel like you'll be heard, you'll be understood. So you feel like writing is your, sacred place, and you go and you write about your feelings and journaling about them, and it's very helpful. I'm glad you had that at that time, and I hope that you're doing it until now.
I am. It's been the most powerful thing in my life. Like, it's been the most healing thing. Mm-hmm. I remember I used to, write on the back of the pages in the notebook because, because I have two older brothers, and so I was afraid that they would find it and tease me.
Yes.
But I think something in me was like, oh, it's fine. Like, I'm gonna find anywhere to write.
Yes.
And my dad was teaching us typing, and so I would open the computer and Word documents, and I would just type.
That's good.
Today I'm upset.
That's beautiful.
It's really powerful.
Yeah. And how did you navigate your relationship with them, with your brothers, as you were mentioning earlier, you had to, you were being told and you were being redirected about how to deal with them because they're boys and you're a girl, right?
Yeah.
So how did you navigate your relationship with them? And how did that affect it until now?
Ooh, that's such a good question. These are such good questions. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. I think that's another one of those lifelong journeys. Mm-hmm. I think now I can say, the experience of gender differences and gender violence has been such a main theme in my life. Mm-hmm. And so I think when I was younger, a big part of it was I just wanted to fit in with them.
Yeah.
And so I would do what I could to not be fussy, mm-hmm. Or I would do what I could to be kind of cool and not show too much emotion, right?
Yeah.
I was just oh no, you're too emotional, go, get out of here. It's oh, but I'm upset. And so I would hide a lot of those parts of myself.
Yeah. Wow. That's hard.
Yeah, it was tough. It was mm-hmm. tough. And then I think I learned a lot in conversation and in relationship with my dad, mm-hmm. how to speak with logic first. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would have. I used to call them debates. I'm sure he just thought it was conversation. I used to call them debates. I was no, I'm going to make my point.
Yeah. Because you're trying to make what you're saying make sense, right?
Yes.
To make yourself be heard.
Yes, to make myself be heard. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think for my mother, she was just okay, I'm going to let her. But that was it. With my brothers, I would hide, and with my dad, I would try to find reason. Right, mm-hmm. And so it's okay. This is a relationship of reason. Let me reason with you,
yes.
And it in some ways it did give me a lot of strength, mm-hmm. Because when later in life I would have to go off to college and I was by myself, mm-hmm. I could really defend myself, mm-hmm. And that's really powerful.
Exactly.
I think that talking about discrimination, I think women often in higher education mm-hmm. or in higher positions in the workplace. Mm-hmm. We don't, if we don't lead with reason, or if we don't always appear cool, calm, collected, mm-hmm. we're not taken seriously.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. We're just not. And mm-hmm. and it's interesting to see that dynamic because I'm oh, it's happening again.
Yeah. In a bigger circle.
In a bigger circle, yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I think in a lot of ways, growing up with my brothers and my father really prepared me for the world. Mm-hmm. But then I had to start doing the work of getting back in touch with my feelings, mm-hmm. because I was so far removed from how I felt, mm-hmm. That I could argue with you all day, but I couldn't tell you if I was sad.
Oh,
Mm-hmm. And so I think that journey became a part of my later in life of, mm-hmm.
How
do I reconnect with myself and mm-hmm. my emotions, mm-hmm. so that I'm a whole person and not someone who's just always protecting herself.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow, this is tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how would you say that dynamic is happening now in your life? Do you feel like you're in a better place of balancing both? And
I think so. I think so. I think it's a dance.
yeah,
You know, it's a dance. Like,
I like that.
yeah, you know, like some days I'm like, okay, well, some days and also some places,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes,
because all of those things are part of me,
exactly.
you know,
Right.
and we can heal and we can journal and we can kind of like work through them, but they're still there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I think in some places, if I come into a room and I feel my body sort of tense up, I know, okay, this is a place where maybe I don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have to defend myself?
Yeah.
Okay, if I have to defend myself, why? And how? How do I want to defend myself? Because now I have a choice.
Exactly.
You know, I can choose to argue, or I can choose to walk away, or I can choose to make a joke, or you know, like now I have those choices because I know what's happening.
Exactly. That's beautiful.
Yeah, and then sometimes, you know, I think it's just taking time for myself.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah,
It's always important to reflect. Taking this your me time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this dynamic of having to live those two different things separately, in and out, I think it has impacted you, like the positive impact that it had on you, that I saw personally, that you value feelings of people. And even like no matter how tough it is, how serious it is, you always try to, to give people that space of reflecting with themselves and providing safe space for your team. And this was one of the best things about you as a manager. I told you a lot about that, right? But for me, this was special because early in my career, I didn't have that example.
Yeah.
I had to always fight for things to be right, and I worked in places where like men were dominating a lot of things, and that was impacting the way they're dealing with things, and it was actually impacted by who they are, where they're from, Yeah, and that was impacting the way they're dealing with you as a female, and by then also younger. It was so young. So I was actually saying this yesterday to Maria.
Yeah.
She was sitting right here yesterday. So being young also, you weren't always taken serious.
Yes, absolutely.
Being a woman.
Yes.
So at those places, I had to fight for so many basic things, and it wasn't the healthiest environment that I worked in, and it just needed extra and so much more energy and time, and even just doubting yourself and feeling that, do I really work this? Do I do, all those bad feelings? And then I had you, so it was totally two different worlds. And yeah, and I'm sure even if when you left, like whoever worked with you, they feel the same. Everybody miss you because you have that human side in you, and it's a beautiful thing to have. The reasons weren't beautiful. You had to suffer. You had to hide and hide your feelings and all that, but it made a big part of who you are today, where you're being considerate about others' feelings and how they just feel about things, and that's an important part of thriving as teams in workplace in today's world, because it's very complicated and life has become much difficult, and it's becoming every day much difficult with all the complications and negativity that we're seeing outside. So having that in a workplace is a gift, and it's a treasure. Just keep it. Okay?
Yes, will do.
Really.
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that's so much of I always like to think about it. I always like to think about it also in the way of where do I need to be strong and where do I need to be soft?
Mm-hmm.
You know? Because I think in our shared work experience, it's if I didn't provide that shield for my team, you guys couldn't be soft enough to connect with each other.
Exactly.
And if you're soft enough to connect with each other, you can find strength. Because my mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we are okay together, we can be strong together.
Exactly.
But to be strong together, you have to be soft together.
Exactly.
So
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think just really seeing all of that.
Yeah, and also you were able to show that strong part when needed. When it's the time to be like just let's focus and be serious about something, or being tough in situations, you were also able to do that. So as you said, it's a dance.
Yeah.
And you know your moves. And yeah, really. You know where to move every time, and that again requires a lot of self-awareness. Yeah, that's why I'm very grateful that we worked together. That was a great experience, and I learned a lot from that, really. Yeah. My next question, you kind of spoke about it, but I want to reflect back again on why you chose to be in a human service field, because where you are now, where you were with us, it's all about helping other people. So what is it that you're finding in that, and why you chose it from the beginning?
Oh my goodness, that's a question. I think I don't know anything else, Yeah, I don't know anything else. I think it goes back to childhood, I have so many memories of my parents just loving on people.
Right.
Like when we were in New York, we had a really strong cultural community. And I remember in the 90s, there was hurricanes in Dominican Republic. And they would pack suitcases, and send people on planes to bring them aid, clothes, food, whatever they needed, and it wasn't like my family members, but it was family, and also I like to think my dad is a very big risk taker. I learned a lot from my dad. And so some of the things he taught me too is, both of my parents showed me the humanity of people. And I think my mom showed me through, those phone calls, through the check-ins. And my dad would show me by taking me.
Yeah.
And he, we all played an instrument growing up. It felt really important to him that we all were musical. And then he would take us to, I remember going to homeless shelters, men's homeless shelters, and playing my violin and performing, and everybody would just light up, and they would bring so much joy and so much peace, and then we would, do things just in the street, and we were everywhere. There wasn't anywhere that my parents wouldn't take us.
That's beautiful.
And it was just so. It just made me, I think, feel connected to everyone, and it just felt really easy to see everyone's humanity. So when it was time in high school to transition to college and pick a career, the only thing that made sense, I took a million career tests. I remember my teachers were like, take this one. All of them came back. Oh, you're a social worker. That's what do you mean? He says you're a social worker. I told my dad. He says, no, that makes no money.
He's right though.
He's right. He said, no, that makes no money. You can't do that. And I said, I don't know what else to do. I gotta do it. So I just think that it's my passion. Seeing people grow out of really hard situations is something that I think really restores your sense of what's possible.
Exactly.
And it's not that every story is hopeful, but there's a possibility in every person.
Absolutely.
And that's worth fighting for. That's worth showing up. That's worth checking in. And that just feels like my North Star. That's my compass. I don't know about everything else. It's kind of confusing. Come on, let's figure it out. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, and that, I think you have the coaching. You as a coach, you just have that naturally.
Yeah.
And I think that with you in work, and even just after you became my friend.
Yeah.
After you left the job, also just calling when I call you, and I'm confused or I'm feeling, overwhelmed with specifically the writing, helping me to break down that feeling and unpack it. I remember the last time we spoke about the book, and when it was super overwhelmed and all that, you just so naturally, in no time, you just helped me unpack all the feelings. I think you have that in you naturally, and I think I don't know if it's something that's in you all the time, or you think you have learned it from your childhood, you have learned it growing up.
know. I don't know. I think working together is. I think New American Pathways in that workplace was the first time I had so much reflected back to me. And so I was able to hear a lot about who I was.
Oh, interesting.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm this person really? It was confusing a little bit because I'm like, oh, and you know, I have friends in my life that are really supportive, but they're also in helping professions.
Yes.
You know, so I think having you guys as a team, I was really blessed because I felt really supported and I felt really seen. And I think I'm still trying to receive that because it's really awkward. But I believe you guys because it feels true.
Yes,
you know,
it is.
Yeah,
and you know, it always comes from heart.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and whoever tells you that, you just take it and believe it.
Yeah.
You should have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
So I want to take us back to the community and supporting other people. I think that's a big part of the Spanish culture.
Yes.
Right. Because I have known quite good people from that community, like from different countries, but they're all like they share the Spanish culture, which is full of love. I see that.
Yes.
Love is one of the most important things in your community. Loving your community, loving your culture, your food, and everything. You know, I think those also play a big role in just shaping you as a person and in the way your parents were trying to raise you up.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I think so. Our culture is very affectionate. It's very like family is everything, and family is anyone who. I mean, family is your family, but it also extends. You know, it's anyone who you serve a plate to. You know, it's very. The culture is so there's I think Spanish culture and then there's Dominican culture. Spanish culture is very family oriented, and it's really big on loyalty and love.
Yes,
you know, it's we're gonna figure this out together. We're gonna struggle together. We're gonna laugh together. We're gonna love together. And I think in Dominican culture there's a lot of joy. You know, like we want to make everything a party. But it's just I think, you know, we know hard times and we know how to make a good time out of a hard time. Yeah. You know? And that was huge in my upbringing. And it's funny because in my family, I'm like, not that fun. But it's because they're so much more fun than me, you know? Right. Yeah, and I'm like, oh man. I need more harder. I got more harder. I'm going to be more silly. But when we get together, we don't take ourselves too serious. Yeah. You know? And I think that gives everyone else permission to also, like, lighten up, like, you did something embarrassing. It's okay. Like, let's laugh about it, you know? Yeah. And even when it's on difficult times, I remember we had this conversation as well. Like, you just try, you handle the situation and everything, but at the same time, you try not to make it controlling how your day goes. And you as a family are able to do that. Like, just, even when it's tough, try to laugh and, you know, make it look a little silly, or try to take the intent of that situation, and I think that's beautiful also. Yeah, as long as you still are aware of the actual situation, you're putting it in your mind, and you know you have to deal with it, but at the same time, you don't want it to control your day, your mood, or the way you're just dealing with the outside world. Yeah, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and I feel like I have to give my mom credit for all of that. I think my mom is very emotionally in touch, you know? She is. Wow. Yeah, it's very, I've learned so much from watching her, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it, but I'm very proud, and I feel like I'm still learning from her. Absolutely. Yeah, we always learn from our moms. We keep doing that every day. Yes. Yeah, it's an endless process. Yeah. Yeah, and she grew up with a bunch of sisters, so for them, she's just like, oh no, we're gonna figure it out. Like we're gonna hang out, we're gonna get into trouble, we're gonna get out of trouble, we're gonna get into trouble. So yeah, there's a lot of lightness, and you know, you can still have a disagreement. You can still have things that you need to work on, but that doesn't mean that there's not love.
Exactly. The love that's unconditional. Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, let's go back a little bit to speak about mental health. I know you're a big advocate.
Yes. Everyone needs therapy.
Yes.
Or journaling, or meditation, or prayer, whatever, or coloring, whatever brings you peace. But everybody needs a peace practice. Is what I believe. Okay, that's it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're just, you know, you're taking the conversation where I was taking it. So I have seen you speaking about it in the professional setting. But how do you address mental health, like with your family or with, you know, the closer community? Is it something that you can speak about it openly? Is it something that is stigmatized? Like, for example, in my culture, it's very stigmatized. And for you to speak about mental health, you need to be so strong. You need to be like, to believe in what you're saying and know that it's not going to be always, you're not going to get the best feedback, but you have to keep working on it, trying it, and you know, raising awareness. It requires a lot of awareness raising about the importance of mental health. So, like, is it something that you have to deal with it in your community, or is it something that's absolutely accepted or understood?
No, not at all. Not at all. Not in any way. I think because we're a very joyful culture, there's also a lot of anxiety and depression that we don't speak about. And I think now at this age I can use the words, you know, but even that's new. Like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about? We don't say that. And my family doesn't say it, you know? So I feel like in this place I can say the words out loud. But even when I say them, I understand the weight that it brings inside a room. Because I think there's also a lot of shame.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of like, well, like, that can't be me, because if that's me, then there's something wrong with me. And I kind of like to challenge that, because I think for me, I'm very accepting of, like, we all struggle, you know? Yes. And if we all struggle, it also means we all deserve support. And both are always available, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's always going to be a struggle, and there's always going to be someone who has a loving presence that can help you.
Absolutely.
But we have to be honest about what we're struggling with. So I think in my community, I try to be gentle but firm. Because I do feel like it's my job to say the things that are hard to say.
Yes.
And a big part of that is because I am young, because I am a woman, because I can make a joke, right? I think I use a lot of my personality to have those conversations. But I think until we can be more honest and gentle with ourselves, it's going to be really hard to feel the love that's available.
Yes.
You know? It's also going to be really hard to see beyond our problems and find a solution.
Yes.
You know?
That's true.
So it's not an easy thing. I think sometimes whenever I can't say the words, whenever I can't say mental health, or whenever I can't call things by their name, what I do is I just pay attention to people's bodies and I help them feel better physically.
That's
you know? Yeah. Because there's so much about how we eat, about how we move our bodies, that brings relief.
Yes.
And so if I can't say the things, then I'm going to show you the things.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
At least, you know, how can I show you how to take a deep breath? Can we go on a walk together? Did you drink water today? You know? Like, we love those things because, you know, it's like, oh, come, you're being a mama, you know? And everybody loves that comfort, right? And so I think if we can't use the words, then let's provide each other relief and comfort.
Exactly.
But let's do it in a way that teaches the other person.
Absolutely.
Right? Because if you do it for them every time, they're not going to be conscious that you're giving them something that they can do for themselves.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
It won't become a practice. It won't be a thing that they, when you're not there, they can do. They're going to be like, oh, I wish blah, blah, blah was here so they can make me feel better. No! Go on the walk call me. You know, call your friends while you're walking. Drink some water. You know, little things. It doesn't have to be very big, but I think those little things make a really big difference.
Exactly. So how do you help people navigate their mental health when you're around, like doing those small things you were talking about? But how, like, what do you do to help them do that without you guiding or directing them? Like, if they're going through certain situation and they're processing certain feelings and you're not around, do you think at least the people who are in your closer circle, are they prepared to do that by themselves? Like, just how to take care of themselves if you're not there to tell them. Like, just doing those small things. Go for a walk, drink a water, take a deep breath. Those.
I think so much of it happens over time, you know, like I think relationships can be like these really beautiful places of like learning and growing when there's like intention for that, you know? But also when there's accountability. And so when I think about like my sort of circle, you know, I'm going to give you a couple of different examples because every person is unique. But when I think about like maybe my family members or certain friends who I love so much, but like aren't there yet, you know, I think a lot of what I do is I'll ask them questions that I know that they're going to ask themselves later. You know, and so much of that is being a good listener.
Absolutely.
So when I'm with them and I listen, I'll say, well, why do you think you did that? And we don't have to talk about it, but of course they're going to go home and think about, well, why did I do that? You know? And it's a gentle way to sort of put them on the direction or the path. And then I think for people who are more willing and are more open, or maybe just feel a little bit more confident to take those sort of emotional risks, I think that's where you can kind of lean in and say, well, how did it go? Did you do this? And it's the follow-up, you know? There's so much strength in a follow-up and a check-in because
it's of that.
Thank you. And so I think and it's cool. It's cool to see how, you know, the first time you tell somebody, let's say journaling or going for a walk or, you know, did you eat today? You know, the first time you tell somebody, they're not going to take it seriously. You know, it's true. I always give myself 3 chances. Like, the first time, it's just to say it. The second time is like the real time, you know? And the third time is to see where they are in their processing. And I think that gives me patience because I don't expect it right away.
Exactly.
You know? And so it's like, people are going to take their time doing everything, right? Doing their healing, doing their work, doing life. Life takes time. So how do you also adjust like your expectations of where you think they should be? Because it's not, you know, it's not your business. All you can do is be like this like supportive guide, you know? Or maybe not even a guide, because I think it's a partnership, right? Like, I think the most beautiful relationships are the one where like maybe you call your friend and you say, hey, did you eat today? And then your friend says, okay, well, did you go for your walk? Right? And that mutual accountability.
Exactly.
That mutual check-in. And there's so much strength in that.
Absolutely.
Because then you guys don't veer too far off. You know, you kind of stay on the path. So that's I think how I would, that's how I navigate it. I think, you know, there are friends in my life who are, they have made mental health and healing a part of their lifestyle. And those relationships are really, they mean so much to me. You know, because you're able to have conversations and be vulnerable in a way that really helps you with every part of your life. Because once you understand yourself, you can really say, well, how do I want to navigate this situation? Or what did I mean to say? Right? I said this, but I really meant to say that, you know? And it just changes. Those little things really change your worlds in big ways.
Absolutely.
They bring up a lot of possibility. You know? So it's really
true.
nice.
I love that. And I know that, as I told you, you're good in follow-up and just, keeping people consistent. But how do you, as Ines, stay consistent, especially when it comes to mental health? Because because it's an everyday. How do you show up to yourself every day, right? And it requires a lot of consistency and just keeping yourself accountable. So what are the things that you do to help yourself stay on the track and keep the consistency of whatever practice you're doing every day, or like regularly, even if it's not every day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think right now it's a really good question. I think right now a big thing that I've been doing is there's a small meditation. It's 5 minutes on self-compassion. Because even though I'm this very loving, generous person, I'm very self-critical. And I struggle with that, right? That's probably one of my harder mental health things.
Yeah.
And so this meditation on self-compassion is really beautiful because it's called RAIN. And so it's recognize, accept, investigate, so get curious about it, and nurture.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I think having someone else speaking to me, I can just put on my headphones, having someone else speaking to me feels like, it's like when someone is celebrating you or affirming you.
Yes.
It kind of brings a sense of peace and life back. And
Absolutely.
I just let me listen to this, and I'm gonna follow it. And these are the instructions; they're the same every time.
Yeah.
And you just follow, and so that's been really big for me. And then I would say the other thing is accepting that self-discipline and consistency is a form of self-love.
Absolutely.
It was a really big shift. Because I had a therapist one time who told me you have to have boundaries with yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is that? I need to hear more about that, right?
Yeah. So when I get really overwhelmed, I skip the basics: food, exercise, water. And so we were in a conversation where, she was asking me, well, how am I supposed to be here helping you with your mental health, but you haven't taken the boundary of your physical health seriously?
Wow.
And
that's so deep. Yeah.
After and when something is really good, I'm like, oh, that was very rude. That was very rude. Who told you to say that?
But you needed to hear that, right?
I needed to hear it, and that's the impact of something that's true, right? Because there was so much truth that I never forgot. That was 4 or 5 years ago,
and you weren't happy hearing that you needed that, right?
I needed that.
Yeah,
I needed it. And I think from there forward, I started to practice. I have a calendar. And in the calendar, I track those things. Did I eat today? Did I exercise? Did I water? And there are, sometimes there are a couple of weeks in a row. Sometimes I'll miss 3 weeks. And I can tell. I can tell, and everyone else in my life, and everyone else in my life can tell. And so now what I do is I give myself 3 days.
Yes.
3 days. If I didn't do these things, I need to tell one of my friends. I gotta tell on myself.
That's true.
And they check back in, so they know, okay, it's been 3 days, and you're not doing the things that are good for you. That means I need a little help right now.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's going to be useful for whoever needs to hear it, And I like the way your therapist told you that it was tough, as you said. It wasn't the best way or the best thing you needed to hear, but it's true that if you need help from other people, you get to be helping yourself first to a certain level, right? You need to be surviving for me to help you navigate your mental health. But if you're not even doing the basics for you to, to show up, because if you're not eating, you won't be able to show up every day. You don't have that strength and the energy that your body needs for you to be able to take that car and drive and go for the therapy session, right?
Yes.
Or just having the energy to stay in for 1 hour call, right? So it's true that whoever needs to be helped, they need to be helping themselves first to a certain level for you to be able to receive the help, to receive everything from outside, you need to be to be at that level with yourself. And I just like that she set boundaries with yourself, because I never thought about it.
Me neither.
We need to discipline ourselves.
We do. And I think it's, it's an area of struggle, but I think when you have like a way of understanding how to approach it, it makes it less personal, right? Because I can be like, oh, I didn't do those things today, and I'm mad at myself, and then I don't do them tomorrow. Or I can just say like, okay, like I'm feeling overwhelmed. I already have the instructions.
Yeah.
I just need to follow them.
Exactly.
And I think remembering that you have the instructions.
Yeah.
Like, you know how to feel better. You know what makes you feel good.
Exactly.
You know the basics. Just do them.
Yeah, I think, and in most of the cases, we know what we need to do. We know very well, like most of people know, that it's always about how do you remind yourself.
Yes.
How do you keep yourself on the track and stay, showing up, as I said, to yourself every day, and keep that commitment, and having friends that you tell them about you not doing the stuff for 3 days, having your therapist, having someone just to keep you accountable is kind of keeps you going, and help you just to keep the balance, and absolutely that shows the importance of relationships and community, and that nobody can have it all together by themselves, right? Yeah.
And I think part of community relationships is like you get yourself so far, and then we start to look towards each other, because we also want to celebrate. We also want to be in the journey together.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you do want a friend and you want to be sad with that person, or you want to celebrate, but it just can't be every single day.
Yeah.
And it can't be every single thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why we complete each other, right?
Yeah.
That's true. It's really nice in us talking to you, and we can talk for hours.
We can, yes, it's true.
And I love talking to you more about mental health. That's why we're going to have you back here in a couple months, or maybe next year, whenever you're ready to come back.
Yes.
And we just speak more about mental health and give us some tools. I know you have a lot of tools, and there is so much knowledge that you have that I'm sure that people out there need to hear it and to use it. So we'll get you back. But before we let you go, I want to hear like last nugget of wisdom from you to people, or to me, just last thing that you want to leave us with.
Last words. I think just, listen to yourself. Listen to yourself. And then try to find community.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever, if you listen to yourself and what's coming up is, I need this, or I need that, or I'm curious, or have a question, honor it, and then find somebody who's also asking those questions.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's how you find your people, and that's how you kind of find your way.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you. A last question. How do you feel? We check out.
The checkout, yes, I want to check out, yes. I feel, that was good. Well, you have to tell me too. I didn't ask you your check-in question.
The check-in, as I said earlier, I was excited.
Yes.
Because we have been talking about this for a long time, and you were the first person I spoke to about the podcast, so I was so excited that we're having this now.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
And it felt so like the process, the whole session was so, it's smooth, and you just helped me to reflect with myself, even when I was listening to you, or when I was talking. So it's really good. Yeah.
Okay, when I check out is I feel very calm. I feel very at peace.
That's good.
I feel very calm. And again, I think grateful. Grateful. I'm grateful that this is a podcast that people can listen to, And like, if you're having a bad day, you already know what, go and find the channel, hit play. Yes. We're here. We're also accountability and cheerleaders on your journey.
Exactly.
And it's a resource that's going to be free and anyone can use.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very happy for that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm happy that we finally made it happen. Yeah, a lot of good things coming up.
Yes.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it has been a great conversation and very reflective. Everything you said was thoughtful, was deep, and it was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Say that, hug.
Yeah. I almost gave you a high five. I am going to give you a high five. Yeah.